Oh, hey, how you guys doing? My name is Marty Chan. I am an author, a playwright, a storyteller, and a handler of ropes. Today, thanks to the Young Alberta Book Society and Yabs TV, I get a chance to talk to you guys about the writing process, the creative process. Now, sometimes people think that writers come up with their ideas and it's fully formed in their brains. It's a perfect idea, and all we have to do is sit down at a computer and type up that idea, and it instantly becomes the books that you pick up in the stores or in the library. No, actually, there are a few steps that writers have to follow before they can turn those ideas in our brains into something that you read in a book. And I'm going to show you what I mean with the help of this rope. Right? A writer always comes up with an idea. And in our minds, our ideas are perfect. We have our imagination that can shape the story just like this rope right here, right? You've got a beginning, you got a middle, and the story goes and winds up someplace in the end. And in our brains, because we're working with our imagination, anything that's like a plot hole, we can fix immediately. If there are logic problems, we can solve those problems in the snap of a finger. Our characters are amazing and perfect, and they'll always do the right thing at the right time. And when we get to the end of our story, it's a brilliant, exciting climax that brings the reader to an amazing end to a fantastic story. In our brains, it's perfect. But then we have to capture those ideas on the page or on the computer screen. And so what we have to do is we have to write the stories down. And so imagine this rope is the idea that I'm trying to capture. So I'll start off by typing out the idea, trying to capture it. You know, I get little sections written and I think, yeah, it's feeling really good. But what usually happens to writers, whether you're a beginning writer or an established writer like me, somewhere in the beginning you hit a snag, something that causes what you've written to go in a different direction than what you had imagined. And it causes a little a break or causes a little cut in the story. And what happens is it separates what you have written from what you want to write. And so now you've got this disconnect. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, about 90% of the writers out there who have this little cut in their story, they're the ones who give up. They go, what I've written isn't good enough to match what I've got in my brain. I'm not going to do it anymore. Now, the 10% of the writers who recognize how writing works, they're the ones who succeed because they realize, hey, right now what I've got is a little ugly, but I know that if I can connect it to what I want to write, I have time to go back and revise and make it better. So what you do is in your first draft, even though it looks ugly, what you're going to do is you're just going to find a way to tie off and make a little connection point between what you have written and what you want to write. Now, that knot looks a little rough, but trust me, it will allow you to continue moving on with your story. So what will happen is it'll allow you to capture a little bit more of the story, right? And it allows you to move forward in your first draft. You get to capture more and more of the story, and it allows you to feel confident and move on with the story. And you're thinking, this is great. Everything that I've captured is starting to look pretty good. But about halfway through the process, something else happens, and that's when the story starts to unravel on you, okay? And again, you get this weird break between what you've written and what you want to write. And you start thinking, well, how on earth I'm going to make that connection between these two things again? Same thing as you did the first time around when there was a problem. It's going to be ugly, but it's got to be something you have to do where you create that little connection point between what you have written and what you want to create. And what it does is it gives you that connection point again. And what you do is it gives you that opportunity to continue writing and capturing what's in your brain, and you get going more and more. And sometimes you'll hit more snags, a little break in the story, but you keep tying things off and you work your way through all the way until you get to the end of your first draft. And you'll have captured everything that was in your mind. It won't look exactly the way it's supposed to in your brain, but at least you got something down on the page or the computer screen. After that, the real work begins. You start to revise. You go over your work and you start rewriting your story, smoothing out the sections that are rough, fixing the plot problems, making sure that your character is consistent. And you go all the way through until you get to the end of the draft and you'll have something that looks a little closer to what was in your brain. And then you go over it again and you revise some more. And the more you revise, the closer you'll get to what the idea was in your brain. And if you get to a point of the story when all you have left is just an ugly little knot that's getting in the way, all you have to do is get rid of that knot. And you've got a story that makes sense from the beginning to the middle to the end. And that's how writers work. Now, for you guys, I'm going to give you a little exercise to try, okay? Find yourselves a timer, okay? Set that timer for, let's say, 7 minutes. And in that 7 minutes, you're going to write the first draft of a story. You're not going to stop. You're not going to doubt yourselves. You're not going to second guess yourselves. You're not going to go on social media and check what's happening on TikTok. You're not going to go on YouTube. But for 7 minutes, you're going to sit down at your piece of paper or your computer and you're going to write the first draft of a story, okay? Don't stop for those 7 minutes. And if you're kind of stuck for a story idea, take a look right over here. I've got Superman floating up and holding those books up in midair. I want you to write a story about how on earth my Superman is holding up those books in the air. 7 minutes, write as much as you can. And when you get to the end of the 7 minutes, take a look at how much writing you created in just a short amount of time. And you'll realize that writing is super easy if you take it one step at a time. And once you're happy with that, revise, revise, revise until you have something you're ready to show people. All right? I hope you enjoyed that little talk. And once again, I'd like to thank the Young Alberta Book Society for putting up Yabs TV and letting me have a chance to talk to you guys. Enjoy your writing. Have a great day while I try to figure out how to get that knot back into my rope. Okay? Take care. We'll see you around.